we'll begin with a general introduction from each candidate. So each candidate will take 3 to 5 minutes to introduce yourself and the position you're running for. In your response, please talk about what is your platform and why do you want to run. So starting with Mikhail.
Alrighty. Hi everyone, my name is Mikhail Goldenberg and I'm proudly running to be your USG President. These past 2 years I've served as your Vice President of Student Life and I've had the honor of advocating and representing you all, and I hope to continue doing that next year. My platform is built on 3 things: transparency, collaboration, and trust. I want to help students have a more streamlined way to interact with representatives, and whether that's an online forum or making sure that our website, public access drive, and all other USG information be current. I want to make sure students know what we're working on and how to reach us. On top of this, I would like to continue working on the financial index proposal, where before matriculating to the university, you'll have some sort of knowledge of how much tuition will increase year by year. And this way it'll help students not have to worry about that while they're in the university. On top of this, as well, I would like to collaborate with student leaders on campus. In my role as Vice President of Student Life, I had the opportunity to work a lot alongside RHA, whether that's food subcommittee or working on housing initiatives, and I'd like to extend that to other umbrella organizations and non-umbrella organizations such as BSU, CREAMS, and any advocacy group, because there's so many on this campus. And then lastly, on my platform, I really want to foster an environment within USG where every single representative feels valued, heard, and has all the tools to succeed. Membership retention is a little tricky here in USG, and that there's a lot of factors that go into it, but I really want to make sure that a representative feels supported by their vice president, myself, our advisor, our internal development chair, and has all the resources they need in order to succeed. So I thank you all for taking some time to listen to my platform, and I look forward to answering some questions. Thank you.
Thank you to the Observer for hosting this debate, and thank you to everyone who's listening to my platform. So I'm Trisha Ghosh, and I'm also proudly running to be your president. And so my platform is based on transparency. I want to increase, we have a new PA drive, but not many people know about it and not many people use it. And that's kind of hindering how much people know about USG and what projects we are working on, what initiatives we are working on. So I want that to change. I want to work with the director of IT to make a new PA drive or a new initiative tracker which will be more accessible and more user-friendly. I also want to work with other communities and other student media outlets to increase USG's awareness of USG on campus and how much people know about it, and just make it more accessible for people to come up to USG and talk to us and let us know what problems they are facing. Also, I solely represent the students, and it doesn't matter what kind of a relationship I have with admin or whether I personally agree with them or not. If the students don't agree and they think some change needs to be made, I am there for that. I will be advocating what the students want, and that is all. It doesn't matter what I need or what I want. The students are my main priority.
This past year, there have obviously been tensions between the administration and students. 1, how will you navigate these issues? And 2, how do you plan on advocating for students in these settings, especially if administration is clearly at odds with students?
So what I mentioned in my platform, it doesn't matter what I want or what the admin wants. Having a good relationship with admin is important, and there are many people in USG who have worked with admin more than I have. But ultimately, the students' needs need to be prioritized. And so I plan on advocating for students by ensuring transparency with admin and making sure that every decision and conversation we are having is out there for the student body to see. I also want to make sure that we have concrete evidence to present to admin, with the tuition reallocation budget. There was an issue on the Wi-Fi policy where they said that they were not able to see there weren't enough students who complained about it. So clearly we need to work on Feedback Fridays and make sure that people are bringing forth all their problems, like every single one of them, no matter how small it might be, so that we have something to present to admin when they ask us for problems we are facing. Another way would be by making sure that we as students know, like we are using the student government properly, we are utilizing them, because a lot of times people don't bring up their problems, they just keep it to themselves. Even during the campaigning period, when I was going around talking to students about what they would like to see change in the campus, a lot of them, they don't think about their problems too much because they feel like changes cannot be made. So I would like to change that.
So going back to the question about students' trust in the administration, I think this is a very difficult task to, regain. I will say my utmost priority is to advocate for all students on this campus, student voices, students' opinions, and relay that to administration. Throughout my role as Vice President of Student Life, I've had to have many difficult conversations with administration, and I've had to push back on many of their decisions. I want to specifically address, the tensions between the university and SJP and all Palestinian students and Palestinian supporters on this campus. I want to make sure that, they know that I am advocating for you and that I, equally am frustrated with, their just unprecedented decisions to unrecognize SJP, and I'm working towards hopefully trying to reinstate the club. And, when trust is broken, it's very easy to break, but it's a lot harder to heal. And I think that's going to take a lot of time. And hopefully throughout this year, we will be able to make some strides towards that direction. But I want to hear from students. I want to hear what their opinions are. And I want to make sure that that's being relayed to administration.
Any rebuttal speeches or new points to bring up?
I have a follow-up for the SJP thing.
Yeah.
So when SJP ceased to be an organization, that came as a surprise to the VP of Finance, because even they didn't know about this decision taking place. And there needs to be more transparency between admin, and if there's no transparency between USG and admin, it takes more time for there to be transparency between admin and students. So that is one thing I would like to change as well, like bringing more, like making sure that everyone's on the same page and everyone's on board.
And I can give some clarification to that. The reason why administration did not notify USG is due to the Office of Conduct and how their proceedings are, confided by like FERPA laws. And so I think in situations like this, when there is a big USG change, I think that's what we need to relay to admin, that they need to inform us. But kind of going back to the topic of how to make students regain trust in the university, I think that it takes pushback on some stances and some statements that they've made, and I'm more than prepared to make that push back to administration. But on the flip side, it's a two-way street. The student body needs to communicate with USG so that we know how best to advocate for you.
Follow-up question. Mikhail, you've mentioned that you want to work towards reinstating SJP, and Trisha, you've mentioned that there wasn't much transparency regarding the process. To you both, what steps or actions do you plan on taking to address the situation, either reinstating, or what are your plans for this?
Yeah, so I can speak to some of the work that I've done this past year. I've met with Interim VP Whiting, and we've had, I'd say, about 3 conversations about this now. And, the administration is very firm on their stance as to why they made the decision. But what I've been trying to advocate for is how that affects the campus as a whole and how that's not representative of students, and it's violating their right to express themselves. And that's the biggest concern that I see, is that you're not allowing students to have freedom of expression and freedom to, share their beliefs. And so, hopefully with more conversations with students, I will be able to, whether if it needs to be a USG resolution, we can escalate it to that.
As for transparency, there needs to be, we need to have people from the student body speak up and let us know what issues they are facing, and we need to take Feedback Fridays more seriously, and students need to come up to us and tell us what problems they have. Otherwise, there will be no way we can know what we are advocating for or who we are advocating for. One way to increase transparency, I think, would be by making the meeting minutes with admin and the conversation we have with them a little more public and giving other people a chance to access those. And another way would be by making the representatives and the executive more accountable for their actions. So taking all the steps that they have been taking, all the initiatives they're working on, and making it all available to the student body so that they can see how much we are progressing and how we are tracking on our things. And that will kind of put like a ticking time situation on us, so that that will just provide the right amount of pressure for us to do our things properly.
Can I respond to that? Yeah. So while I do agree that I believe that we need to be more transparent about the conversations we're having with administration, especially on this issue, I do want to make it very clear that there is a very, like students feel like there's a threat of doxing, and I want to make it clear that there can be ways, and we will instill ways in which they can reach out to us anonymously, because I do not want to put any student in an uncomfortable situation. So, moving forward, if elected, I do want to make that an available option so that we can hear these real-life experiences and still advocate on your behalf without any fear of retaliation from the university.
Okay, next question. Oftentimes, student leaders come in with huge promises such as reducing tuition, but then aren't able to take actionable steps towards their desired outcomes. What can USG do to make tangible progress on issues affecting the entire student body?
Yeah, so I definitely agree. This is quite an issue that we oftentimes face, where people make a lot of promises and don't follow through. I will say, me personally, the promises that I've made these past 2 years, I've accomplished, or I've at least started to do, and I take very much pride in that. And I also feel like oftentimes it's not so much that the representatives aren't doing what they promise, it's not as transparent. And I think that comes with making sure our initiative tracker is current, making sure that initiatives are put in the newsletter, making sure that it's up on the website so that students can see what people have working on. Now, specifically for the financial index proposal, a lot of foundational work has been done this year, and I've talked extensively with Basil about this. And my plan is, if elected, to work on this heavily over the summer and make sure that by the time we come back in the fall, we will have a resolution out. And just for context, the resolution would give a rate of how much tuition would increase year by year, and you'd find this out before you matriculate. And some further steps in that initiative would be to eventually cap the tuition increase to 5%, and then eventually to a tuition freeze. And I'm very cognizant that these are very difficult and not easy tasks, and it's going to take time to get there, but I do believe that taking the first step is the way to go.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. Oftentimes, student leaders come in with huge promises such as reducing tuition, but then aren't able to take actionable steps towards their desired outcomes. What can USG do to make tangible progress on issues affecting the entire student body?
So one thing USG can do is take out every initiative that we have and put it on the initiative tracker and make it public so that everyone can see it. This will ensure that everyone is on board with what we are doing and everyone has access to the steps that we are taking. It would also require us to increase transparency so that they can see where we are going with this. And I'm willing to work over this summer. I'm willing to work with the students, the rest of USG, Mark, who's our advisor, and to make sure that promises like index tuition can come to fruition. And I also want to make sure that if we cannot come to a tuition freeze over at some point because of inflation and other reasons, I would try to initiate a way of increasing scholarship at the same amount so that students can, so that the balance it just balances out.
Can I make a quick rebuttal? Yeah. So I think while putting initiatives on our tracker is important, I also think that continuously putting progress steps is equally as important so that students know exactly where we are in terms of the initiative. I also think that, maybe if an initiative doesn't pan out, it's good to just keep that transparent. So next year, that's definitely something that I want to emphasize, and I want to make sure that students can know exactly what the status of an initiative is and kind of what happened if it didn't pan out.
Given that there is a lack of awareness among the student body about USG's role and advocacy efforts, particularly with projects like the new initiative tracker, which are not as accessible or well promoted as intended, as you guys have mentioned, what strategies would you implement to enhance the visibility and transparency of these initiatives?
Go for it.
So as I mentioned in my platform, I would like to work with the director of IT to create a new initiative tracker which is more user-friendly and accessible to people. I would also like to work with the director of comms, vice president of comms, to make sure the newsletter comes out on time. I think we've been doing a great job with it this semester. The newsletter's been coming out on time. Everyone's been up to date with what USG has been doing. It can be made more transparent. There can be better steps taken, but mainly just working with all the vice presidents that we have, and obviously, like I've emphasized the importance of Feedback Friday enough, but making sure that we emanate information through the Feedback Friday forums as well is one way of increasing awareness about initiative trackers and other things that USG is doing.
And do you mind repeating the question one more time?
Yeah. Given there's a lack of awareness among the student body about USG's role in advocacy efforts, particularly with projects like the new initiative tracker, which are not as accessible or well promoted as intended, what strategies would you implement to enhance the visibility and transparency of these initiatives?
Yeah, I definitely agree that USG has not done the best job in promoting our initiative tracker as we've kind of transitioned platforms this past year. But I think once we're able to establish our website, our public access drive, our initiative tracker, and a myriad of other things like the newsletter and Feedback Friday, we need to take it a step forward. We need to have events where student body can meet their elected representatives. We need representatives going to club meetings. We need them out and about in the university promoting that we are a resource for students. I also think integration, especially in orientation week, would be very helpful so that, freshmen right off the bat, when they get on the university, they know what USG's mission is and how we advocate for students. So that is definitely something I'd look forward to this upcoming year.
Why are you a stronger choice for this role compared to your competitor? Anyone can start.
Would you like to start?
No.
Sorry, I'll start. So while I do believe my competitors are wonderful people, I do believe I am the strongest candidate for this position. I have served on USG Executive Board for 2 years now, serving as a vice president, which gives me the unique perspective of seeing USG at its best, at its worst, at its in between, and problem solving a lot of issues. And on top of this, I have had to build a lot of relationships with administration, professional, personal ones, which will definitely help me as USG president. And and so the last thing I want to leave you guys with is, as your USG president, I will continue advocating for your opinion, your voice, and I'd love to serve as your 2024-2025 USG president.
I believe that my candidates are qualified people, but I believe that I am the strongest candidate because I have had experience of talking to administration and figuring out things with them, but not as much as some of my other opponents have. So I think I bring a fresh perspective into this because I have no biases or any preconceived notions of what the admin can do. It doesn't matter to me what the admin thinks or what my personal relationship with them is. What matters to me is who I'm advocating for. I'm much closer to the students, and I believe that this is what's more important for the role because I'm advocating for the students.
Thank you both.
Thank you guys.